not to be. And that is the question, whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing, end them. To die, to sleep, no more, and by a sleep to say we end. The heartache and the thousand natural shocks that flesh is heir to, 'tis a consummation, devoutly to be wished, to die, to sleep perchance to dream. Aye, there's the rub. For in that sleep of death what dreams may come, when we have shuffled off this mortal coil, must give us pause, there's the respect, that make calamity of so long life. For who would bear the whips and scorns of time, the oppressor's wrong, the proud man's contumely, the pangs of disprized love, the law's delay, the insolence of office, and the spurns that patient merit of the unworthy takes, when he himself might his quietus make with a bare bodkin who would fardels bear, to grunt and sweat under a weary life. But that the dread of something after death, the undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveller returns, puzzles the will, and makes us rather bear those ills we have, than fly to others that we know not of. Thus conscience does make cowards of us all, and thus the native hue of resolution is sicklied over with the pale cast of thought, and enterprises of great pitch and moment with this regard their currents turn awry, and lose the name of action. Macbeth, Act 2, Scene 1. The bell strikes. Is this a dagger which I see before me, the handle toward my hand? Come, let me clutch there. I have thee not, and yet I see thee still. Art thou not fatal vision, sensible to feeling as to sight? Or art thou but a dagger of the mind, a false creation, proceeding from the heat oppressed brain? I see thee yet in form as palpable as this which now I draw. Thou marshallest me the way that I way going, and such an instrument I was to use. Mine eyes are made the fools over other senses, or else worth all the rest. I see thee still, and on thy blade and dudgeon gouts of blood, which was not so before. There's no such thing. It is the bloody business which informs thus to mine eyes. Now over the one half world nature seems dead, and wicked dreams abuse the curtained sleep. Witchcraft celebrates pale he-cat's offering, and withered murder, alarumed by his sentinel, the wolf whose howls his watch, thus with his stealthy pace, with Tarquin's ravishing strides, towards his design moves like a ghost. Thou sure and firm set earth, hear not my steps, which way they walk, for fear thy very stones prate of my whereabout. And take the present horror from the time, which now suits with it, whiles I threat he lives. Words to the heat of deeds, to cold breath gives.
Othello, Iago's Monologues. Act 1, Scene 3. Thus do I ever make my fool my purse, for I mine own gain knowledge should profane, if I would time expend with such a snipe, but for my sport and profit. I hate them more, and it is thought abroad that twixt my sheets he's done my office. I know not if it be true, yet I, for mere suspicion in that kind, will do as if for surety. He holds me well, the better shall my purpose work on him. Cassio's a proper man, let me see now, to get his place and to plume up my will in double knavery. How? Let's see, after some time, to abuse Othello's ear, that he is too familiar with his wife. He hath a person and a smooth dispose, to be suspected, framed to make women false. The more is of a free and open nature, that thinks men honest that but seem to be so, and will as tenderly be led by the nose as asses are. I have it, it is engendered. Hell and night must bring this monstrous birth to the world's light.
The Tempest, Act 3, Scene 2, Caliban. How does thy honour? Let me lick thy shoe. I'll not serve him. He is not valiant. Lo, how he mocks me. Wilt thou let him, my lord? Lo, again, bite him to death, I prithee. I thank my noble lord, wilt thou be pleased to hearken once again to the suit I made to thee? As I told thee before, I am subject to a tyrant, a sorcerer, that by his cunning hath cheated me of the island. Thou liest, thou jesting monkey, thou. I would, my valiant master would destroy thee. I do not lie. I say, by sorcery he got this isle. From me he got it, if thy greatness will revenge it on him, for I know thou darst, but this thing dare not. Thou shalt be lord of it, and I will serve thee. Yea, my lord, I'll yield him thee asleep, where thou mayest knock a nail into his head. What a pied ninny's this, thou scurvy patch? I do beseech thy greatness, give him blows and take his bottle from him. When that's gone, he shall drink naught but brine, for I'll not show him where the quick freshers are. Beat him enough, after a little time I'll beat him too. Why, as I told thee, 'tis a custom with him, of afternoon to sleep there thou mayest brain him, having first seized his books, or with the log batter his skull, or paunch him with a stake, or cut his wizened with thy knife. Remember first to possess his books, for without them he's but a sot, as I am, nor hath not one spirit to command. They all do hate him, as rootedly as I burn but his books. He has brave utensils, for so he calls them, which, when he has a house, he'll deck withal, and that most deeply to consider is the beauty of his daughter. He himself calls her a nonpareil. I never saw a woman, but only Sycorax, my dam, and she. But she as far surpasseth Sycorax, as greatest does least. Be not afeard, the isle is full of noises, sounds and sweet airs that give delight and hurt not. Sometimes 1,000 twangling instruments will hum about mine ears, and sometimes voices that, if I then had waked after long sleep, will make me sleep again. And then in dreaming the clouds methought would open and show riches ready to drop upon me, that when I waked I cried to dream again. Shakespeare, The Tempest, Act 3, Scene 2, Ariel. Thunder and lightning enter. Ariel, like a harpy, claps his wings upon the table, and with a quaint device, the banquet vanishes. You are 3 men of sin, whom destiny that hath to instrument this lower world, and what is in it, the never surfeited sea, hath caused to belch up you, and on this island where man doth not inhabit, you mongst men being most unfit to live, I have made you mad, and even with such like valour men hang and drown their proper selves. You fools, and I my fellows are ministers of fate. The elements, of whom your swords are tempered, may as well wound the loud winds, or with be mocked at stabs, kill the still closing waters, as diminish one dow that in my plume my fellow ministers are like invulnerable. If you could hurt, your swords are now too massy for your strengths, and will not be uplifted. But remember, for that's my business to you, that you 3 from Milan did supplant good Prospero, exposed unto the sea, which hath requited him and his innocent child, for which foul deed the powers delaying, not forgetting, have incensed the seas and shores, yea, all the creatures against your peace. Thee of thy son Alonso they have bereft, and do pronounce by me lingering perdition, worse than any death can be at once, shall step by step attend you and your ways, whose wraths to guard you from, which here in this most desolate isle else falls upon your heads is nothing but heart's sorrow and a clear life ensuing. Richard III, Act 1, Scene 1. Now is the winter of our discontent made glorious summer by this son of York, and all the clouds that lured upon our house in the deep bosom of the ocean buried. Now are our brows bound with victorious wreaths, our bruised arms hung up for monuments, our stern alarums changed to merry meetings, our dreadful marches to delightful measures. Grim-visaged war hath smoothed his wrinkled front. And now, instead of mounting barbed steeds to fright the souls of fearful adversaries, he capers nimbly in a lady's chamber to the lascivious pleasing of a lute. But I, that am not shaped for sportive tricks, nor made to court an amorous looking glass, I, that am rudely stamped and want love's majesty, to strut before a wanton ambling nymph, I, that am curtailed of this fair proportion, cheated of feature by dissembling nature, deformed, unfinished, sent before my time into this breathing world, scarce half made up, and that so lamely and unfashionable that dogs bark at me as I halt by them. Why, I, in this weak piping time of peace, have no delight to pass away the time, unless to spy my shadow in the sun and descant on mine own deformity. And therefore, since I cannot prove a lover, to entertain these farewell spoken days, I am determined to prove a villain, and hate the idle pleasures of these days. Plots have I laid, inductions dangerous, by drunken prophecies, libels and dreams, to set my brother Clarence and the king in deadly hate, the one against the other. And if King Edward be as true and just as I am subtle, false and treacherous, this day should Clarence closely be mewed up about a prophecy which says that G of Edward's heirs, the murderer, shall be. Dive thoughts down to my soul. Here Clarence comes.
Richard III, Act 5, Scene 3.
What shall I say more than I have inferred? Remember whom you are to cope withal, a sort of vagabonds, rascals and runaways, a scum of Bretons and base lackey peasants, whom their overcloyed country vomits forth. To desperate ventures and assured destruction, you, sleeping safe, they bring to you unrest. You having lands and blessed with beauteous wives, they would distrain the one, disdain the other, and who doth lead them but a paltry fellow, long kept in Bretagne at our mother's cost? A milksop, one that never in his life felt so much cold as over shoes in snow. Let's whip these stragglers over the seas again, lash hence these overweening rags of France, these famished beggars, weary of their lives, who, but for dreaming on this fond exploit, for want of means, poor rats had hanged themselves. If we be conquered, let men conquer us, and not these bastard Bretons, whom our fathers have in their own land beaten, bobbed, and thumped, and in record left them the heirs of shame. Shall these enjoy our lands, lie with our wives, ravish our daughters? Hark! I hear their drum. Fight, gentlemen of England, fight! Bold yeomen, draw! Archers, draw your arrows to the head, spur your proud horses hard, and ride in blood. Amaze the welkin with your broken staves.
A horse, a kingdom for a horse.
Inter their bodies as becomes their births. Proclaim a pardon to the soldiers fled, that in submission will return to us. And then, as we have taken the sacrament, we will unite the white rose and the red. Smile, heaven, upon this fair conjunction, that long have frowned upon their enmity. What traitor hears me and says not amen? England hath long been mad and scarred herself. The brother blindly shed the brother's blood. The father rashly slaughtered his own son. The son compelled being butcher to the sire. All that divided York and Lancaster, divided in their dire division. Now let Richmond and Elizabeth, the true succeeders of each royal house, by God's fair ordinance conjoin together, and let their heirs, God, if his will be so, enrich the time to come with smooth-faced peace, with smiling plenty and fair prosperous days. Abate the edge of traitors, gracious Lord, that would reduce these bloody days again, and make poor England weep in streams of blood. Let them not live to taste this land's increase, that would with treason wound this fair land's peace. Now civil wounds are stopped, peace lives again, that she may long live here, God say.